Just, I guess we're ready to go. Attorney Lynch. Wait, we'll swear her in. She's ready? Yes. So noted. Would you just, since Attorney Hartman just got here, would you just briefly explain the continuing objection? Thank you. Thank you very much, Josh. Um, okay. Would you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear under the pains and penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in the matter now at hearing shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? And would you please state your name and spell it for the record, please? And is it Madeline?
Madeline.
Medel.
INE.
Yeah. Yes. Okay, thank you.
Mrs. Melchett, are you the project architect on the subject site?
Yes, I am.
And how long have you been working on this project?
For about 5 years.
Okay. And are you a licensed architect in the state of Rhode Island?
Yes, I am.
And are you also experienced dealing with historic designs in the Newport Point area?
Yes, I've been working on historic homes since I've moved to Rhode Island about 9 years ago.
Okay. Approximately how many homes have you designed, new homes and additions since in the last 9 years?
I don't know the exact count, but I would say over 50.
Okay. Mrs. Melchett, can you describe, just generally describe the subject site at 88 Washington Street?
Sure. The site is a 13,919 square foot lot that sits between Washington Street and the Newport Harbor. There's a small historic structure located at the southeast corner, which was moved in that location in the 1960s and then added to in the 70s. There's a tall 8-foot hedge along the street with an existing driveway on the north side next to a large tree. The majority of the site is grass or lawn. It's mowed. From Washington Street to the seawall, it slopes roughly 12 feet down, and the VE17 flood zone delineation is about 30 feet set back from the lot line at the street side, and the existing house is set back roughly 20 feet from the lot line.
Let me just get into the existing historic structure, the trip house. Is that structure on the National Register of Historic Buildings?
Yes, it is.
And because the trip house is on the Register of Historic Buildings, what are the restrictions that you as an architect would have to deal with, either remodeling or moving that property?
It's not written in stone, but the restrictions would be that you'd have complications in trying to modify, move, or alter it in any way.
Okay. So would it be problematic if you had to put an addition onto that trip house?
Not unheard of, but yes, it would have to go through HTC.
Okay. Now, why don't you just go through the trip house and describe just briefly the layout of the structure and whether or not the building complies with the current building code?
Yes, so I'll speak about as it is in its current state. There's two masses of the house. One part is the original which contains the living room. There's a basement that was built in the 60s when this was moved here. And then there's a half story for the second story because it's built within the roof line. And then the addition that was built in the 70s is a single rectangular space that now contains the kitchen and half bath.
Now, are there any restrictions or constraints in the existing structure that impact modern living?
Yes, absolutely. I think number one overall, the size. The structure before and after renovations, the stairway in particular is always a problem with old homes not being to code. You could even consider unsafe. Ceiling heights are below code regulations. Just insulation that affects the indoor air quality and sound transmission. Those are things that we aren't able to modernize to the way you would a new building.
Okay, thank you.
I'm going to object to this line of questioning and move to strike. We're here before CRMC on a variance from CRMC standards. This is all really zoning and frankly outside of CRMC's purview.
Mr. Lynch?
Well, one of the criteria that we're going to have to be testifying to is that the variance that we're seeking from the CRMC setbacks is the least relief necessary. Minimum variance is required. In addition, one of the criteria, what are the hardships that the applicant is dealing with on the subject site that is forcing us to seek variances from the CRMC regulations? So I think this testimony goes to the hardships on the site. We're going to get into the design progression of the subject site to demonstrate that we're seeking the minimum relief necessary.
I'm going to overrule the objection, Mr. Parks. I think that the testimony is relevant and it's going to be useful to the hearing officer in determining the whole flow of the application. And also you realize that the standards are a little more relaxed in this setting as opposed to a superior court hearing.
When you say this, you're talking about evidentiary standards,
Yes.
not the standards for a variance.
Correct,
Okay,
yes,
thank you.
evidentiary.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Thank you.
Ms. Melchert, if you can just briefly describe the neighborhood surrounding the subject site.
Sure. The site is in a historic district that has been heavily built up since hundreds of years ago. Spacing is relatively dense. Homes range in size, fairly large on the waterfront. There are minimal setbacks from the street as well as from the harbor along Washington Street. There's generally very little, if any, natural landscape. Many views of the water are limited to public rights of way and private driveways only. This lot is one of the largest lots with one of the small structures.
Okay, thank you. Now, when you were working on a design for the proposed home, did you have to deal with various state and municipal regulatory agencies?
Yes, we've had to go through Newport Historic District Commission, the Newport Zoning Board, Rhode Island State Historic Preservation Commission, and then this is the final step, the Coastal Resource Management Council.
Okay. And was one of the directives that you were given from the Newport Historic Commission and the Rhode Island State Heritage and Preservation Commission to maintain and preserve the trip house?
Yes.
Now, also as part of the design considerations that you were dealing with, did you have to deal with that specimen tree along Washington Street? Was that part of the factoring of your design?
Yeah, so when we started the design process, just looking at the site in general, if I want to describe, first reaction to seeing the site, working on a project, first of all, being the trip house as a contributing structure, but it wasn't in its original location. So that was one site factor. the large tree, and along with that, the view and the driveway that are right next to it, to the north. And then as far as other restrictions on the site, we had the CRMC setbacks to the west, a flood zone, significant slope, and the unusual seawall shape that exists on this site.
And did all of those factors impact what you designed as the proposed dwelling that's in front of the hearing officer tonight?
Yes, I think, from the beginning, the trip house was seen as not suitable for long-term family living. So if that's like step one, and then we'll go through all the iterations, right? But all of those things that we just discussed, like all of those play a key role in what was designed. It's like a puzzle. So
So
I'm sorry, it's like a puzzle? Is that what you
Yeah.
said?
like with
Thank
all the pieces that you have to work with. Yeah.
So let's start on the design history of the subject site. And if you could just briefly, we don't have to go over them in detail, but just briefly describe what started on this site versus where we are today.
Sure. So I'll just quickly run through and this is just what was presented at HDC or zoning. There were many other iterations with the homeowners and such. But the first design,
Ms. Melcher, when you say HDC, do you mean the Newport Historic District Commission?
yes.
Okay, thank you.
The first design, which was presented in late 2020, was a 5-bed, 5.5-bath home with a finished basement. At this point, we were looking at relocating the trip house to another site in Newport.
And were you successful with the Newport Historic District Commission on that design?
No, we were not. So some of the comments were that it was the scale is too large. They really wanted us to look at keeping the trip house in that location to see what we could do with it.
And did some of the neighbors also object to the removal of the trip house?
Yes, the neighbors objected. They also objected to the fact that we'd be potentially encroaching on the zoning setbacks, meaning they would lose their view to the water, particularly from across the street.
So let's go on to the next design that you proposed.
So the second design was brought to Newport Historic in December of 2020. It contained 4 beds, 4.5 baths, plus the trip house, which we proposed to modify and kind of use it as a guest house. And again, we were criticized that the style was not compatible and the massing was not compatible with the neighborhood.
Okay. So were you involved in the first 2 designs personally?
The first 2 were completed by a colleague, so I wasn't directly involved with those.
Okay. Now the third design, were you involved in that?
Yes.
Why don't you go through that, what was done next? And that was in what, 2021?
Yes. February 2021. We looked at a different style of architecture that would maybe be more compatible. We're still in the conceptual phase, so it was very schematic. The house proposed had 4 beds, 4 baths, plus the trip house where we proposed removing this 1970s addition to gain some room on the site. And then we proposed a connector to connect the 2 so that could still remain as guest quarters, but it would be connected with an interior hallway. And from HGC, we received mixed reviews on that and altering the trip house. And from the neighbors, opposed to moving it or again, changing it at all. And then again, we had criticism that the size, scale, and massing was too large. Not necessarily anything about the character or the style, but just the size.
Okay. And as a result of those comments from the Newport Historic District Commission and the neighbors, did you downscale the size of the proposed structure?
Yes, and The next design that we went to historic with was May 2021. We significantly decreased the size, made the building overall like 1 3/4 stories rather than 2.5 stories. We went with 3 beds, 3.5 baths, and then the trip house would remain as is with 2 bedrooms as a guest house in its current location.
Okay.
And then it would be connected with the exterior deck in the back.
So there was no alteration to the trip house in that design?
No alteration to it except for it has a deck on it. We just continued the deck so that it would connect with the proposed house.
Thank you.
What happened? Did you receive approval from the Historic District Commission on that design?
Yes, at this point we got conceptual approval. There were still comments on the water-facing facade, but again, it's just conceptual. So the next step was to go to zoning.
And the project went to zoning, seeking a variance from lot coverage? Right.
Yes, we were requesting 28% lot coverage and got denied.
Okay. So you went back to the drawing board and even further downsized the proposed dwelling?
Yes, at this point quite a bit of time passed in between as we restored the trip house because we felt like that was a good direction that we're going in. At least we can do part of the project now as we work on the rest. And so January 2024, we went back to HDC with a 3-bedroom, 2.5 bathroom proposal that had 23% lot coverage. At this point, there was a completely new commission. So there were a lot of, I think, minor comments on fenestration and the rear elevation and some roof overhangs that we had, nothing major.
Did the Historic District Commission also weigh in on their preferences for the location of the new structure in relation to the trip house?
In this revision, we had pushed the proposed structure in front of the trip house in order to try to diminish the CRMC variance that we needed, and they were okay with it at that time. And this is Newport Historic.
Okay. Now,
So-
okay.
I'll just go on to the next one because it's
Well, if you can just briefly, you said you did some restoration work to the trip house. Can you just briefly describe what was done to restore and renovate the trip house?
yes, complete exterior restoration. So nothing changed really. On the interior, we did a new stair so that it would be safer. And instead of, did some other rearranging inside, really.
What was the condition of the trip house before you made these renovations?
It was not in great condition. It was like a camp, I would say.
Okay. So if you want to jump on to the next design.
Sure. The next design iteration was in February of 2024 when we went back to HDC, Newport Historic, and we further decreased the coverage to 20% so that we would fit within all of the zoning requirements and not need further approval from them. Really just scaled down the interiors, kept 3 beds, 2.5 baths. And this application did receive full HDC approval.
And was that the last change?
That was the last change until we, submitted to CRMC, which was then put on hold for a year or so. In the meantime, we started discussing with Rhode Island State Historic, knowing that was going to be a next step. And they made further recommendations for changes, such as some window sizes, They wanted us to look at making the roof shorter, which we did look at revisions of that with them, and they decided it was didn't make a difference in terms of the aesthetics, so we were able to keep that. And then they also asked us to move the house back so that it would be behind the trip house, because for them that was an important conceptual way to show that the trip house was there first.
And CRMC had provided a letter to the Rhode Island Historic Preservation Society asking for their advisory opinion on the proposed dwelling, correct?
Yes.
And initially, Rhode Island Historic Preservation responded to the council that they were not happy with the proposed siting of the property and the design. Is that correct?
Yes.
And during those discussions, you had further discussions with Rhode Island Historic Preservation, and one of their requests was that you move this back 2 feet further to the west, correct?
Yes.
And that caused you to increase the encroachment into the coastal buffer and the setback, correct?
Yes.
And ultimately, did Rhode Island Historic Preservation Commission give a favorable recommendation to the council?
After we made those changes, yes, they did. And so that brings us to the final submission, which has been submitted to CRMC.
Okay.
What's the date on that?
December 31st, 2024.
So what's part of this application now is the structure that has been approved by the Historic Preservation Commission, correct? And also the location has also been approved by Historic Preservation.
Yes.
Now, are you familiar with some of the CRMC variance criteria that this application is requesting relief from?
Yes.
And I'm not going to ask you to go over the environmental aspects of the project. Those were dealt with Mr. Principe and Mr. Rabideau at the prior hearing, correct?
Correct.
Just looking from your opinion as a licensed architect experienced in historic design, do you have an opinion as to whether or not there are conditions on the site that make the setbacks and, well, strike that, make the buffer and setback impossible to meet?
Yes, absolutely. I think due to the conditions of the site, it is impossible to build anything outside of the required buffer and setback, especially due to the unique shape of the seawall. Due to the shape of the seawall and everything needing to be set back from 3 sides, 72% of the lot is located within the coastal buffer. The other hardship is the existing structure is so small. The rule that allows for 50% structural lot increase would only allow 392 square feet of additional space, which is the size of a 1-car garage. All zoning requirements are met, and we push the proposed structure as far away from the water as possible in an attempt to minimize the variance, as we already spoke about. And it was the state historic that,
Ask you to push it back.
yes,
Now, also, I think you mentioned that, part of this, your design was to maintain and preserve that specimen tree that's located along Washington Street. Is that correct?
yes. I mean, it's a nice tree. It's big. It takes, I don't know how long, I'm not a tree expert, but a long time to grow a tree that big. So, of course, we all wanted to preserve that from day one.
In your design plans, you anticipated being able to put construction on the new site and preserve that existing tree?
Yes, I've gotten some a tree expert to weigh in on it and give us advice on construction procedures.
Excuse me one second. Could you just remind me again what kind of tree? Is it an elm?
Again, I'm not an expert. I was
I
told it was
forget.
a London plane.
That's right, London plane.
we thought it was a London plane. I think Mr. Rabidou said it may have been some type of a sycamore, but I'm not sure.
I think that's a variety of sycamore.
Could be.
Thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
Mhm.
Now, in your opinion, are the variances sought by the applicant the minimum variance necessary to allow for a reasonable use of the subject site?
Yes, I think the minimum variance is being requested for the owner's reasonable use of the site. The proposed home is modest. Any further reductions would be unreasonable, in my opinion.
Now, was the requested variance due to any prior action of the applicant?
No, the variance requests are solely due to the unique conditions of this site. As I said previously, it would be impossible to build anything that could meet a reasonable use of this site without any variances.
And one of the questions is, was the application due to any prior action of the applicant's predecessor in title? Again, back when the site was, when the building was moved to the site in the 1960s, was there any historic district commission in
No,
Newport?
there would have been no regulations on moving that structure at the time.
Okay, and there probably wouldn't even be any CRMC regulations concerning the subject site, correct?
Correct.
Now, do you have an opinion as to whether or not the buffer and the construction setback will cause the applicant an undue hardship?
Yes, I think there's a unique hardship on this site because it's a lot bounded by the Newport Harbor on 3 sides in a neighborhood where none of the other lots have any coastal buffer. The lot is developed with an undersized structure that cannot be moved. To build a reasonably sized single-family dwelling that meets all zoning requirements, a variance must be provided. There will be no negative effect to coastal resources, in my opinion.
And I think you testified that this, the subject site is unique in this area along Washington Street, correct?
Yes,
As well as the seawall, the construction of the seawall, that's unique.
correct.
What is unique about it?
A lot of the other sites on that street, it's natural. In this case, because of the way that it was modified at one time in history, there's the seawall that sticks out on, it's like rectangular and it sticks out. So it has 3 sides rather than 1 side. That would be, I think, more commonly present on the sites.
So is it more common for the other houses along Washington Street to have a straight
Yeah.
north-south seawall?
Correct.
I don't have any further questions for Mrs. Melchert.
Any Park?
Thank you. Good evening, Ms. Melchert. I know we've spoken before about this project, so I will just follow up on a few questions that Attorney Lynch asked you. And I'd like to start where he ended, which is with the seawall and the shape of the property. Now, you're aware that the property gained its west-facing lawn because a barge was driven up onto the property. Can you hear me? You're aware that the property gained its west-facing lawn because a barge was driven up onto the property in the 1950s, correct?
Yes, as the story is told.
And, well, in fact, I think you're at some of the hearings where evidence was entered into the record showing pictures of that barge, correct?
I don't recall that. I believe you.
And that barge served to expand the landmass at 88 Washington Street, correct?
Correct.
So the property is in fact larger than it would be had the barge not been driven there.
Correct.
Objection. I think it calls for a legal conclusion as to what the dimensions of the lot were, whether there's a barge or not.
I think if
If she knows, she can answer.
I'd also just, I think what's good for the goose is good for the gander in terms of lesser evidentiary standards.
Is that Is that a legal
So
term of art?
that is a legal term of art.
I've used that before too, I think.
I was just objected to on a calls for a legal opinion, so I was sure to honor that. So, Ms. Melker, you had more space on this property to place a house than you would have had the property existed in its state before the barge was added, correct?
Correct?
You testified early in your direct that the Washington Street area is heavily built up from hundreds of years ago with limited views to the water that are principally from public rights of way. Do you recall generally that testimony?
Yes.
And in fact, this space at 88 Washington is one of the only views of Newport Harbor from the public right of way of Washington Street, correct?
Yes, it's unique in that it's not the same as the rest of the neighborhood.
So if you placed a house where one currently doesn't exist, that would occlude views of the water from the public right of way, correct?
Yes.
Are you familiar with the CRMC rules and regulations?
Yes.
Are you aware that some of the applicable standards here require the preservation of scenic views and vistas?
Yes, I've heard that.
And in fact, and I'll quote from the what's colloquially known as the Red Book for you, every effort should be made to safeguard from obstruction significant views to and across the water from highways, scenic overlooks, public parks, and other vantage points enjoyed by the public. That's one of the regulations applicable to this project, correct?
Yes, but this isn't a public park or anything. This is private property. Also, just I want to reiterate what's been said before about the hedges, because this is also common in the neighborhood, is to have a 6-foot high privacy fence and or hedges for the majority of the property line. That's what exists on a lot of the neighborhood today.
I'd like to show you a photograph that it's part of the CRMC record. I may.
And Attorney Parks, could you just give me the Red Book is voluminous, as you know. Can you just give me the
It is-
section?
It is section 1.3.5A.
You may. Thank you.
So just in terms of record keeping, Mr. Hearing Officer, I had pre-marked exhibits A through H. I don't know if it makes sense for record keeping to call this I or what.
Works for me.
Great.
Exhibit I or identification?
So it's part of the record, so it's
Okay.
it's
Well-
in anyway, but
Thank
you know. So I'm just showing you what we marked for what we just marked as exhibit I. And can you describe for me what you see in this picture?
It looks like a view from the neighbor's patio across the street, but I see the trip house. I see the tree that we discussed. I see the driveway opening.
And you testified that it's common for neighbors to have privacy fences that would occlude the view, correct?
Yes,
And of course, that's not the case in this picture, correct?
not on the property right now, no.
Q. You began your testimony speaking about the various designs that have been proposed before we got to the one here today, correct?
Yes,
And just so I'm clear, none of those prior designs are up for consideration by CRMC now, correct?
correct.
And you also spent time talking about the Rhode Island Historic Preservation and Heritage Commission letters regarding this property, correct?
We've received letters, yes, correct.
I'm sorry, testifying here tonight, Mr. Lynch elicited testimony from you regarding the back and forth with the Historic Preservation and Heritage Commission. Do you recall that testimony?
Yes,
Now, RIHPHC does not get to overrule CRMC, correct?
Correct. I've been told, informally that they hold a lot of weight.
You can't point to any regulation wherein RIHPHC's opinion takes precedence over CRMC's, correct?
No, it's not written as far
And-
as I'm sure.
And
As far as I know.
RIHPHC renders, and I believe these are your words, an advisory opinion to CRMC, correct?
Correct.
So you last testified in this matter before the Newport Historic District Commission, correct?
Yes.
And that was I'll represent to you, that was in February of 2024. Does that sound right?
Sounds right.
And you talked about the subsequent certificate of appropriateness that was received, correct?
Yes.
And are you aware that that certificate of appropriateness is the subject of a live appeal?
Yes.
So it's now pending before the Superior Court?
I'm not sure what the status is. That's what I've heard.
Are you aware that since you testified, the City Council has informed CRMC that it is opposed to this project?
I have yet to see a reason, but I have.
Regardless, you know that the city is opposed to this project, correct?
The city council, yes.
Now, you testified that the applicant has since renovated the trip house, correct?
Yes.
And I think you characterized it in an email to CRMC as a stunning renovation, correct?
Yes.
So it's livable?
It's cute. It's a place I'd want to spend the weekend. Would I want to live there full time with a family? No.
Well, the applicant made certain design choices, obviously, when renovating the house, correct?
Yes.
And the trip house served as a residence for well more than 300 years, correct?
That's questionable. I don't know factually that what the history is. It was described in a newspaper article as a summer cottage when they moved it.
As part of your preparation, have you ever reviewed the CRMC staff report
Yes.
and the attachments there too?
Yes.
So you saw the apartment listing attached to the staff report, correct?
Yes. As far as me or the client knows, that is not, was never true or actually rented out.
You have no knowledge other than seeing the attachment to the CRMC report, correct?
Correct?
Which I believe included pictures before your renovation, correct?
Before, yes.
So may have been rented out before your client bought the property, correct?
Correct?
You just don't know, correct?
Correct.
But regardless, there's information out there suggesting that this property was rented at the sum of $16,000 a month, correct?
It's out there. I don't know if I believe it, but it's out there. Yes.
Okay. Now, the plans for this proposed house call for a more than 1,700 square foot footprint, correct?
Correct.
So about 3,400 square feet of living space?
Yes.
And the trip house is about 1,200 square feet, correct?
Correct.
So that provides about 4,700 square feet of living space, correct?
Correct.
And that does not include the lower floor of the trip house where the garage space and it's labeled on the plans unfinished spaces, correct?
No, it doesn't include unfinished spaces.
So that garage space down there puts us at over 5,700 square feet, correct?
Sure.
And on certain plans that have not currently before us, but the same space that was previously labeled as gym, wine storage, or golf simulator, correct?
Sure. At one point, we were planning on a finished basement. So, yes.
And just so I'm clear, the new house is a ridge line that's 10 feet higher than the trip house, correct?
Correct.
Mark, we had the screens up last time with that speed. Oh no, I just thought you had them from last time. I can show I can. If everybody's comfortable, I'm happy to quote from the email, and I can show it to you if you'd like to confirm it's accurate. So as part of your design process, you corresponded back and forth with RIH PHC, correct?
Yes,
And you wrote to a woman named Elizabeth Totten there, correct?
yes.
Totten, Totten. And I'm happy to show you this email right now. I just have the one copy in front of me. But do you recall writing to Ms. Totten that, quote, "We have looked at decreasing the footprint further, but the owner does not want to lose any more space," end quote.
Correct.
So we've got this plan before CRMC because it's the size of the house that the owner's essentially willing to live with, correct?
Yes,
And I believe you've characterized that in another email to CRMC as, quote, "owner's design preferences," correct?
yes.
So essentially it'd be inconvenient to have a smaller house, correct?
I would say more than inconvenient, due to their needs. Functionally, they need so many bedrooms. They have kids, potentially grandkids. So I would say it's not just inconvenient. It's more than that.
And okay, let's talk about that because I think you were at these hearings as well where Mr. Rue testified. He's got 2 children, correct?
Yes,
Both grown, correct?
yes,
So they do not live with Mr. Rue, correct?
no.
Are you aware of any regulations in the Red Book that entitle an owner to build a second house on a single lot?
No, I'm unaware of any.
You testified earlier that you've designed over 50 houses in the past 9 years, correct?
Correct.
How many of those have required compliance with CRMC requirements?
Only a handful, I would say 5 to 10.
And in fact, the lack of familiarity with CRMC requirements tripped you up in this project, correct?
In the early stages, from day one, I wouldn't say tripped up, but we realized that it would require some sort of variance from the beginning. So,
Well, you testified before the Newport Zoning Board that you had a misunderstanding regarding how CRMC setbacks are measured, correct?
yes, regarding the shape of the site.
Nothing further. Thank you.
Just a couple questions, follow-up questions. Ms. Melcher, that Exhibit I that you were shown, do you know when that photograph was taken?
Looks like winter.
Okay. But do you know what year it was taken?
It's after the renovation.
Okay.
I don't know what year.
All right. And you see the driveway area, an open area where there's no hedge, correct?
Yes,
And your design contemplates keeping that open to maintain a vista from Washington Street to Newport Harbor, correct?
correct, as requested from the neighbor across the street.
Okay, and which neighbor across the street requested that you keep that driveway open?
Perry Harris.
And you accommodated his
Sorry,
request?
Could you repeat that name?
Perry Harris.
And you accommodated his request in the current design?
Yes,
As a matter of fact, the north portion of the house is built well back from the north side yard setback, correct?
correct. Farther back than would be required by zoning.
So when that hedge is fully grown in, you only have a vista of the harbor through the driveway area, correct?
Correct.
Now, will the lower level, the garage area, will that be located in a flood zone?
Yes.
Okay. And what restrictions does the owner have for living space in a flood zone?
You can only have access. So from the garage up, you can have a stairway. Other than that, it needs to be unfinished storage, garage.
There can't be any living space in that
No.
flood zone area?
No.
Now, just I know Mr. Parks was asking about the size of the current proposed dwelling. It's going to be a 3-bedroom home
Yes,
and only 2 bathrooms?
2.5, yeah.
And-
Very modest sizes. I would say the bedroom, like it really can't shrink at all. The second floor in particular.
Now, I think, did you testify that the original plan for the trip house was to have that as just a guest house?
Yes,
There wasn't going to be a kitchen in that because it would be allowed by zoning?
right.
And is that still the plan?
Yes.
I have nothing further.
Can I bring up something? Actually, I'm surprised that Josh didn't ask about the building inspector's letter.
Sure, if you can comment on the building inspector's letter.
Because I think I'm probably the only one that knows the answer to this question. Because I met with the building inspector to get that letter to submit to CRMC. And we went back and forth with discussions on whether or not windows or glass doors would be allowed in the flood zone, like in the lower level. There's nothing written in code that says that we cannot. In fact, like the FEMA documents show pictures of windows and glass doors in the basement areas in flood zones. And it just really has to do with the engineering of the breakaway panels and how that's going to work. If we create a tie down so that it doesn't become debris or anything like that, which my structural engineer is confident that we can work through that and make it work.
And those issues will be addressed at
Yes.
the permitting stage and before a certificate
Absolutely.
of occupancy is
Yeah.
issued?
Yeah, we just haven't gotten there yet. Yeah.
Some very brief recross on something.
Sure.
I just want to establish the size of this new house that we're placing. The new house is proposed to be about 40 feet wide, correct? Running along Washington Street.
I'd have to look at the drawings, but
happy.
sounds right.
If you look at A104 of your drawings, all the dimensions,
Yes.
and it's about 55 feet deep, correct?
At the widest point, yes.
And the roof ridge stands at 47 feet 10 inches, correct?
From sea level, correct?
Correct, from sea level. And that's about 29 feet tall from
From the
ground,
street,
correct?
correct.
Thank you.
And I can follow up, is the reason that the house is pushed back to the west due to the neighbor's desire to keep a view vista along the northern boundary of the property?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Yes, the house is narrow going, 40 feet north to south, but then it goes further east to west. Is that depth going east to west caused by the need or the desire to keep a vista along the north side of the property?
Correct. I mean, ideally, you'd have on the water, you'd have the long side facing the water. In this case, we couldn't do that due to all the other conditions on the site, including the view, the tree, the historic house, keeping a distance between those two houses, etc. So
And neighbors' comments and requests?
yes, and neighbors' comments and requests.
Nothing further.
Thank you very much.
I'll call my next witness, James Hool. And I do have resume from.
Thank you. Attorney Lynch, I'm assuming you're gonna ask that he be qualified as an expert?
I will,
I'll-
at some point along the way,
I'm
whether we
just-
want to do it now or I can do it I can start to ask him a
Clark?
question.
So at hearing last time, you said you weren't going to qualify anybody as an expert. I've got the transcript with
Right.
me if we need to do that.
Right.
So
So-
I don't think it's appropriate to now qualify Mr.
Right,
Wu.
well, what my question was going to be was to avoid, spending a lot of time on his qualifications. Did you want to go through that so you can question it?
No, I don't need to voir dire Mr. Hool. I just want to make sure that we're not, now qualifying people as experts when
Right.
it was clear
Understood,
last time we weren't doing that.
understood. Thank you for reminding us.
So I guess if we can swear in Mr. Hool?
Yes. Ah, Would you raise your right hand, Mr. Wu? And do you solemnly swear under the pains and penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in the matter now at hearing shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And would you state your name and spell it, please?
Sure. James Houle, Houle.
Thank you.
Mr. Hool, we're not qualifying you as a real estate expert this evening based upon rulings that were made previously, but you've testified on a number of municipal and state boards concerning land use matters,
Yes,
and you've testified on behalf of Mr. Parks and his clients on a number of applications before local regulatory agencies.
I have.
And have you also testified in front of the Coastal Resource Management Council on land use issues?
I have.
Mr. Hool, you're familiar with the subject site?
I certainly am.
And are you familiar with the variance criteria under the Red Book, section 1.1.7?
Yes,
Now, do you, as someone who testifies in land use in front of local boards and state agencies, do you have an opinion as to whether or not the proposed construction conforms with the applicable goals and policies of the Coastal Resource Management Program?
I do. This is, I think Miss Melcher did a great job of explaining the overlapping regulatory bodies that really impact the use of this property. You're dealing with city zoning, with historic district, with the Rhode Island Historic Preservation, CRMC. And so you certainly have, it's a very difficult property to do anything with when you have to conform to all those standards. But when you talk specifically about the applicable goals and policies of the CRMC, you look at this, the goal for this water type, which is a type 2 water, is to maintain and where possibly restore high scenic value, water quality, and natural habitats of the area while providing for low intensity uses that won't distract from those values. Now, when I look at this, considering the travel of this whole matter, where the scale of the house that is to be built new is been continuously pared down, reduced both in utility and certainly in size and position and height. And when you look at the fact that you're dealing with all the other standards, that I feel this is really, and you look at the neighborhood, that's the other thing that I really wanted to bring in. You look at its position within the neighborhood and the streetscape. I think this really is a low intensity use. When I talk about that, Mr. Parks, we kept asking Ms. Melchert about the size of the property, the size of the house, but part of that has to be very much in the streetscape. And you're dealing with a house that is smaller than any of the other houses that are along Washington Street. Most of the houses on average are around I think there are 13 houses that are along Washington Street on the water side. And if you look at the 12 that are not the subject property, they average over 5,000 square feet. And some of the newest houses are some of the larger houses that have been built along the water. So I think this is a low intensity use. And as been testified in the past by the engineers, will be improving water quality because the runoff will be improved. The natural habitat values of the area will be really unchanged because this is a man-made shoreline all along the waterfront. And I don't believe that there's any change to the high scenic value. I think that that's a wide open sort of catchphrase. And I think that a lot of that is, as I referred to earlier, the streetscape. And that's one of the prime goals of both Historic District and the Rhode Island Historic Preservation is to maintain that streetscape, which is why they've asked for the building, Rhode Island Historic Preservation asked for the building to be moved back from the street. Both HDC, Historic District, and the Rhode Island Historic Preservation don't want it encroaching any further toward the street because they want to preserve the streetscape for the existing small house that's on the property. And again, as Ms. Melchert has testified, they've been very careful to make sure that this building does not interfere or tie in physically with the existing building. They want that building to be a standalone. So I think it's very important when you look at this that if part of the goal is to keep high scenic value, that's very much in conjunction with what Historic District and the Rhode Island Preservation are trying to do. So I think overall, when you look at the applicable goals and the policies of the CRMC, I feel very strongly that this is a low intensity use that really is considerate of the site, certainly considerate of the tree that's there, the streetscape, and I think it is does conform to all the standards.
Mr. Houle, do you have an opinion as to whether or not the proposed construction will result in any significant use conflicts in the area?
Oh, no. It very much is in harmony with the use in the area. That's one of the things that is the reason that all these groups, it's a National Historic District, it's governed by two different historic regulatory bodies, and that it certainly, the design has been improved and been vetted by these groups, and it certainly will not create any use conflict. It's very much in harmony with the rest of the uses. And certainly, as I said, by scale, even the two buildings working together are less than the average size above grade of all of these properties along the water.
And you don't have an opinion about adverse environmental impacts? That's not your
No,
Outlook?
no. I mean, certainly it's been testified by the engineers. Mr. Rabideau had spoken on this at length, and
Thank you.
the engineer had done the same thing.
Due to the conditions on the site, can the standards, the setback, the buffer and setback standards for CRMC, can they be met?
No, it's impossible to meet the standards. The 72% of the lot is within the coastal barrier, either directly by setback or within the buffering. the other 28% is governed by the other three regulatory bodies. So, that forces, there has to be some give and take within all these bodies. So you definitely are dealing with a building that would be impossible. Even the existing building is primarily within the setback.
Do you have an opinion as to whether or not the proposed structure is seeking the minimum variance from the applicable standards?
It is a minimum variance. I actually believed it was a minimum variance when the building was larger, but certainly now that the scale of the building has been reduced, it definitely is a minimal variance. The building can't really be positioned according to all the other regulatory bodies any differently than what is being requested. I don't think that it's going to, as I testified earlier, I don't think that it would injure any of the aims and goals of the coastal resource management. So I do believe it's a minimal variance.
Now, is the request for the variance due to any prior action of the applicant or the applicant's predecessor in title?
No, not at all. I mean, this has existed. The regulations have evolved through the years, but certainly all were in place prior to the current owner taking, as was the size of the lot.
Now, do you have an opinion as to whether or not the standards, the coastal buffer and the setback, will they cause the applicant an undue hardship if they're forced to comply with those standards?
I firmly believe that there is a point where it just would take the property, basically seize most of the rights of the property. And I do think that would be an undue hardship.
I don't have any further questions for Mr. Hool.
Good evening, Mr. Hool.
Good evening.
As part of your preparation, have you reviewed the staff report, which does not recommend granting applicant the relief?
I didn't.
You did not?
I didn't read the stuff.
Okay.
So you said you didn't?
I did not.
Okay. So are you aware of what the applicable provisions are of the coastal management program to this site?
I'm sorry. Repeat the question, Mr. Parks.
Are you aware what the applicable provisions of the coastal management program are to this application?
Well, I think that I've already discussed.
I believe you discussed variance criteria, but but you would agree with me that the variance criteria exist so that an applicant might seek a variance from the standards, correct?
Yes, yes.
So are you aware of what these actual standards are that the staff has determined apply to this property?
I could not speak intelligently about them right now.
Okay, but you are comfortable to testify regarding a variance from those standards that you just said that you can't speak intelligently to, correct?
Well, I think that is true.
Okay. Regardless, you have not issued a written report about these provisions, correct?
I have not.
And you've not written a report about the variance provisions either, correct?
I have not submitted a report.
Now you testified on direct about the streetscape and the size of the other homes on Washington Street, correct?
Yes.
Are you aware of any provision in the Red Book, be it the standards or the variance criteria, that permits or directs an applicant to compare its proposal to the conditions existing on neighboring properties?
No.
And that's a little different from zoning, correct? Which lets you talk about the general character of the neighborhood, correct?
Yes. I mean, the truth of the matter is that when you're talking about streetscape, you're referring to all the other regulatory bodies as well, but very much to a degree, these standards, the number one, the goals and policy, Also, when you talk about scenic value and water quality, I think that they are also very important for the same thing.
Now, you testified on direct that some of the larger houses are newer houses along Washington Street, correct?
Yes,
Would you accept my representation that there are 12 waterfront houses on Washington Street between
I think that's what I said.
Pine Street to the north and Elm Street to the south?
Where were your north and south dimension?
Pine Street and Elm Street.
Okay.
And of those 12, do you know how many post-date the creation of CRMC?
I don't, but I think 2.
So 2 of the 12 had to comply with CRMC regulations then in effect, correct?
Yes,
And the 10 did not, correct?
yes,
And would you accept my representation that one of those 10 that did not is the property directly to the south of 88 Washington Street, which was built in 1840?
I am so sorry, Mr. Parks. Would you repeat that?
Yeah. Would you mind reading it back?
Yes.
Thank you. I don't have any further questions.
Maybe 2 questions. Mr. Hool, you can't cite the specific section of the Red Book concerning criteria for CRMC standards, correct?
No. Yes.
Are you familiar, you're familiar with the 50-foot coastal buffer, correct?
Of course. Yeah.
And you're familiar with the 25-foot setback, correct?
Yes.
Nothing.
Thank you, Mr.
That was
Holt.
easy. Thank you.
I don't have any other witnesses.
So I think as we previously discussed, I'll present my case together with public comment on the 28th,
5:30.
5:30. Right. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. The next hearing, as just stated, is next Thursday, a week from tonight. It'll start at 5:30, and it will consist of Mr. Park's presentation of the objectors' arguments, and also will include public comment. Does anyone have any questions? Thank you very, yes, sir. I don't think we've discussed that. I mean, that's why we moved it up to an earlier time. I think the building, didn't we last month, didn't they say there was a 9:30 cutoff?
Yeah.
Yeah, the building has the city hall requires that the meeting be concluded by 9:30. So that would be the latest we would go. We had asked you to silence those, Mr. Denton. Yeah, okay. Please remember that for next time. So that would be the cap on it, and we'll just see what happens. I mean, if there are still people who wish to speak, or if Mr. Parks has not finished his presentation in 4 hours,
I
which
hope I'm done.
even Mr. Parks, I believe, can do that. I'm very confident in him. But if necessary, we'd have to get another date. We'd have to coordinate that with the city, and everyone would be notified. Mr. Hartman, do you have any comments? Thank you very much, everyone. Have
Thank
a
you.
safe trip home.